The TaylorMade Mini Driver is back and better looking than ever, but how does this work and where would it fit in your golf bag? Does it replace a driver? Maybe your 3-wood? Let's go find out. Okay, so as much as this is a really retro, cool bit of equipment, there is also a lot of technology to this. So it's not just good looks, although it does help. I mean, look how cool just the head cover is. And look at this. If you look inside, you can actually reverse this. And there's like a cheeky little pattern in there. So if you fancy something a little bit different, there's always that added option there. Now, in terms of the actual club, I just love the way this looks. That copper finish they've added this year and the copper name that this has got works so nicely with the whole like retro theme. I really love like the old school logo too. Now, obviously there's that old traditional theme, but there's so much technology packed in here. We've got twist face, which obviously we see on all of TaylorMade's drivers. We've got a multi-material designs. We've got carbon on the crown. We've got titanium in here. We've got steel. We've got movable weights on the bottom for the first time ever. And we've got this really cool K grind on the sole, which is designed to make this a little bit more versatile. It's going to help you hit it off the deck, let this slide through the turf a bit easier, make it play a little bit more like a fairway would. We've also got the speed pocket in here, which is going to help give you a little bit more ball speed on this kind of low of centre strikes, which I think is definitely important in kind of a club of this size that you're going to be hitting off the deck. Now, compared to your typical driver, which we see at like 460cc, say like your TaylorMade QI10, this is actually a 304cc head, so it's significantly smaller in terms of volume. It still has a lot more depth than say you'd see in a 3-wood, but it's much nearer that size in terms of shape and styling. In terms of loft specs, this is 11.5, so a little bit more than kind of the 9 or the 10.5 driver heads we would typically see, but obviously a lot lower than kind of those 3-woods, which we should see in kind of the 13 to 14 degree mark. Now, for me, the big question here is, why would we put this in play? Obviously it's a great looking club, it's really cool, but would this replace my driver? Would this replace my 3-wood? Would I put it in as well as those two? Is there enough versatility between the three to kind of define the different clubs as doing different things? I'm not sure. I also wonder how versatile it's going to be off the deck. So let's go and test it and find out. Quick interlude. If you're enjoying the review, or even if you're not, it would be great if you could hit that subscribe button. Over 75% of people who watch my videos aren't subscribed, and it makes a big difference in terms of what content we can go ahead and produce in the future. So I'd love it if you could hit that subscribe button, join the group and enjoy all the videos. And while you're there, you might as well hit that like button too. Right, back to the video. Right, let's hit some shots. I want to see first off how this compares to kind of my driver distance and how it would like gap in the bag. So it has 11.5 degrees of loft, so it obviously has a little bit more loft on the driver and the head is a little bit more compact. I actually really like how it sits behind the ball though. It's kind of back to that traditional always TaylorMade feel of like the front line, and I love it in that copper. Sounded very high pitched that, didn't it, especially compared to like the QI range, but compared to most drivers. That's only at 91 mile an hour, which isn't too far off what I'd see with driver, probably like 94, 95. It's carried in the low 200s, wasn't my best strike, a little bit heely, but 134 ball speed, not kind of miles off what I'd get with driver, 148 smash, and nearly 3000 spin. So it's kind of almost like 2-wood numbers, which I guess is kind of what this is. Oh, that was really nice. Still got like a good high ball flight. Definitely picked up compared to my first one, which was a bit healy. 93 club head speed, getting close to driver. 230 carry that. That's almost giving me as much as my driver is, which is pretty mental. 137 ball speed, which is nice too. I actually really love that ball fly. It's definitely probably a little bit lower spinning overall than I would think you would see with a driver. Probably would have expected it is kind of designed to be in that kind of mid to low spin category. On my Sunday best, this kind of goes nearly as far as the driver, but it's probably a little bit shorter on average overall, and definitely sits a little bit between kind of the 3-wood and the driver. I'm actually really impressed with the consistency of kind of the ball flight though. Like that I caught a bit toey, and you'd expect there to be not that much forgiveness, but actually it still held the fairway, and it was really a pretty nice ball flight. Pretty interesting because I've obviously not been fit for this at all. This is just the shaft that comes with it. It's a 65 stiff flex, but actually it feels really good. Like it feels like almost as good to me as a fitted club. That is very close to what specs I would use, so is that some part of it. I also really love this kind of old school style retro grip they've put on the top of this. Oh, I teed that one a little bit too high. Better not have skied it. Definitely seen a very consistent kind of fairway finder here so far. Probably need to be brave enough to like tee it down a little bit. And that's just so good. Weirdly, I don't know if it's just like the small head makes you focus a little bit more, but I feel like I'm quite consistent with this. Now, I think some people who kind of suit this club are people who are very good iron players. They like to hit down on the ball a lot, and they might not necessarily like driver as much because they find if they hit down on it, it spins too much. This is designed to be in that kind of lower spin spectrum, so it's going to help with that. And also it's got more loft. If they hit down, it's going to help with that too. So you can kind of see why some specific people are putting in this play, even like non-TaylorMade staffers. Eddie Pepperell's a huge fan of a mini driver, and he definitely fits into that category of really hitting down the ball, compressing it, being a really good iron player. So if you're someone who's in that category, this definitely could suit you. I think the most interesting thing here is I don't feel like I'm giving loads up on a driver. So I think if you're someone who maybe is always a really good driver of the ball, really enjoys your driver, this might not be something that sits into your bag. But if you're someone who struggles with that a little bit, wants something that just looks a bit different, feels a bit different, gives you kind of a bit more confidence off the tee, or if you're someone who's in that category who needs something that spins more, has a bit more loft, this is definitely a really interesting option. Now, because this looks so retro, you might think there's not that much tech in it, but that's not the case at all. This has a multi-material design, very similar in kind of the different weights you would see in the main kind of TaylorMade QI10 line. Got loads of carbon fibre in here, and actually for this first time we've got movable weights in here, so you can change the head around a little bit and get it to play how you want. So if you do want that real low spin, you can move that heavy weight to the front, which is going to give you less spin, or you can have it in the setting here where it's lighter at the front. It's going to give you a little bit more launch, a little bit more height. So there is a little bit more versatility in this than we've seen in previous models. Now what I'm pretty interested to do is hit a few of these off the deck, because it's definitely a lot deeper than a traditional free wood. Although it has that compact head, the face is a lot deeper, so it's not the most confidence inspiring off the deck, definitely more than it would be with a driver. I'm quite interested to see how this performs, how will I hit it, if I would feel confident using it out on the course as kind of a fairway wood alternative. And what I've done is picked like a really easy shot where I've got loads of heather to carry to kind of start this, but let's see how we get on. Tell you what, that came out hot but low. It's definitely a little bit of me just hitting and hoping. Now we do have the adjustable hosel on this, so if you did decide you're going to hit it off the deck loads, you can tweak that and kind of adjust what loft you've got. You might be that you need a little bit more than that kind of standard 11.5. Tell you what though, I did think it would kind of be harder to get the strike, given like the length's longer than a 3 wood. You might not get all the way down to it. I was kind of worried I was going to top it, but actually I feel like I've struck those two pretty nicely. It's definitely coming out a bit low for me, but I am kind of a low ball flight player at the moment. But I tell you what, that still carried 205, which is kind of maybe a little bit shy of what I expect with 3 wood, but it's definitely rolling out a lot more because I've got that low ball flight. So that's getting out to 241. So if I was somewhere in like a links situation where I want something that could go low and run, this would work really well. Oh, that was money. Tell you what, this has performed so much better off the deck than I expected. I definitely think just because of my flight characteristics, I would probably need more loft to use this if I was, say, hitting it into elevated greens or somewhere where I wasn't using the ball to run up. You know, if I had to go over a fairway bunker or a greenside bunker into a pin. But if I was playing somewhere where I could run this and release it out, this would be a great club to like kind of keep under the wind, get a good carry distance of like 205 and then run it out to that 240. Okay, so I can't believe how small the dispersion on that was, hitting it off the deck. I really thought I was going to struggle with that. I was definitely expecting a few tops. I thought there was going to be some balls in that heather. But somehow we've come off really lucky, and actually I struck them all really nicely and got a lot more ball speed than I thought I would. Now, although the dispersion was great with this off the deck and the carry distance was decent, kind of low 200s, so like 205 was my best, but running out to 241, the height was not really cutting it. So I averaged 46.4 feet, which is pretty much a low bullet. It would work great on kind of a links course if you wanted to get something chasing, get it running out, get extra distance. But if you're in a situation where you're kind of trying to attack a green or hit it over a bunker, which was near the green where you're trying to get to, it wouldn't really work because you've just got no stopping power. I mean, that was coming in at a 7.3 land angle, which if you're looking for that with like irons, you're kind of looking to try and get it near 45 degrees. There's a serious lack of kind of stopping power here. But that is because I don't particularly hit the ball that high at the moment. Now I have got this in 11.5 head. There is an option to move to a 13.5. I think that will give me a much more optimal land angle and get me a little bit more control. But it really depends what you're after. If you play at a links course and you want to hit driver, and then you've still got a long way in and you want a club that you can hit off the deck, get out and get chasing and get you as far down the hole as possible, this is going to do an amazing job, and I would definitely recommend that because it's almost as near to driver off the deck as you can get, but it is so much easier to hit off the deck than a driver. Now the other option could be to just loft this head up. That would shut the face down a little bit, but I guess if you're someone who maybe is a slicer and you don't want to move the ball out to the right, that would kind of balance the two out. It would give you a little bit more extra height, launch, and kind of straighten that ball flight out. And that's just because if you add loft to a club face, it just shut it down a little bit. One thing I liked about this is it actually made me kind of present quite a steep attack angle. So if you are someone who's a really good iron player and kind of likes to hit down the ball and struggles with woods because of that, I got to like a nearly -4 attack angle with this and could still hit like a good fly, a good strike, and get the ball going forward. So actually, for someone who maybe struggles with woods because you hit down it a lot, this is a really good option. It's going to give you a little bit more versatility in the bag. So if we look at this compared to off the deck and off the tee, my kind of longest shot off the deck carried 205.9 yards, got to a 241 total. Off the tee, it carried 230.2 yards and got up to a 259.8 on total. So there's definitely a little bit of difference between the two, which means it is doing two different things. So it could work for two different slots. On average, it definitely is a little bit shorter than my driver, but not miles off. I probably, my best shots with driver again out to 240, so maybe 10 yards lost there on my best shot. What I would say is I often struggle with a shot that goes left quickly and can turn in towards a snap hook, and I didn't really feel like I could hit that with this club, just because kind of my attack angle, my delivery variables changed a little bit and it felt a little bit more controlled. So if you're someone who maybe wants to dial it in a little bit, it's quite interesting. This seems to help with consistency, which is not what I would have expected given kind of the smaller head. Maybe I just concentrate a bit more. Who knows? But I'd say overall, it probably performed more optimally as a driver for me. The height was up like 80 feet on average. My club head speed was still 93. My spin rate was pretty good, averaging 2,500. So in terms of optimal performance in this particular loft, it probably performed better as a driver like club here than it does as a fairway wood. Although actually the fairway wood performance really bowled me over because the strike and the ability to launch it was a lot better than I would have expected. And I tell you, I would have topped my fairway wood more than this. Oh God. Which is the opposite of what I thought when I kind of put it down behind the ball and saw the depth of the club head. Okay, so what are my final thoughts on this? Well, I would definitely say it's exceeded expectations in terms of performance. I wasn't really sure what to expect, but I absolutely loved hitting this. It's really playable as a driver, but also really playable as a 3-wood. Obviously there's a few things I need to tweak to kind of get the perfect launch conditions, but actually it's like a straight off the rack product. This performed really well. Now the big decision would be, what do you sub this in for? And if I could have a 15th club, this would go straight in, just because I love the versatility of it. There's different things you can do with it and think it would really add to my bag. But I'm not sure there's a club I would pull out to replace this with. For me, I typically play quite a lot of long courses, so I feel like I do need that extra distance that that driver gives me. However, if I did rock up at a certain golf course and it was a lot shorter or tighter, I would definitely sub this in. Now I can also see if I was on links and there was a lot of long holes that I wanted to get to with a second shot and I could run them in, I would definitely use this. So I think it a little bit depends on how you hit the golf ball and what your course conditions are and what you want to get out of kind of that extra club in your bag. If you're someone who maybe doesn't ever hit fairway woods off the deck and thinks, well, I'd just like a second driver option, this could be a perfect club to put in play. I also think if you're someone who's a bit steeper, doesn't necessarily love woods, this could really work because it seems to really help people with those properties in their swing. Overall, I really love the performance of this club. I think it just looks super cool. It's definitely going to get in my bag for a few games this season, but probably not full time. What do you think about this product? Would you try it? What would you replace it? What would you switch it with? Do you have one and what's your experience? Let me know in the comments, and also let me know what you'd love to see us test next.